This week on the Mindful Men podcast.
There's a lot of stresses when it comes to small business and me also being the only person in that business. So I'm the therapist, I'm the marketer, the admin guy, the finance guy, and all these things are playing in my head. And so I'm offloading a lot of this to my business wellness coach. And he does a great job of sitting there and listening to me download every time that we catch up. But that's the sign of a good therapist, a good coach. He's also a therapist as well. He's trained in the mental health space. And that's why I think I get along with him so well, because we can talk about therapy from a small business perspective, but also from a wellness perspective and using the tools and the theories as well. So these are the things that are coming up. And often he would say to me, Simon, are these thoughts that you're having around your business or your feelings that you're having around the business or the behaviors? Because we also talk about OCD or me stressing or the behaviors that I'm not doing, things like self-care. Is what I'm doing right now, thinking, feeling, behaving, is this helpful? And often I'd say, no, it's not helpful. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the vibe. I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling positive. Even that in itself, he would say, Simon, is this helpful? And we've had this discussion multiple times, but it's starting to sink in. And I'm starting to realize that, hey, actually, this is a powerful phrase that we can use to challenge these negative mindsets or these feelings that we're having or the behaviors that we're having that are no longer serving us. Now, sometimes it is important to have negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors because they help us to tune into how we're feeling, how we're going, how we're tracking. But what we don't want to do is hold on to them. And sometimes we do hold on to them because they ultimately become kind of like a safety blanket. And we wrap them around ourselves. They make us feel tight. They make us feel secure, even though they're quite negative. It becomes the devil that we know. And I've been living a mental health story for 3 decades, over 3 decades. And so sometimes I actually feel like, are my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, is this a form of a safety blanket that I feel is helpful, but in reality, it's not helpful and keeps me stuck in the loop of a mental health challenge? It's always a loop. And sometimes that loop is very small, but sometimes that loop is very big as well. So I'm starting to ask myself, through the guidance of my coach, is this helpful? So now I'm going to teach you exactly how to use this tool. And it is very simple. It is as simple as asking yourself, is this helpful? But I'm going to give you a 4-step process to do this so that you can walk away from this episode and start using it in your everyday life. You don't need to be a trained therapist to ask yourself, is this helpful? So the reason that we're going to do this is recognizing what's going on in our minds and bodies, right? And then we're going to look at this and going, how is this impacting me? Is this impacting me in a positive or negative way? And usually it's in the negative. So once we can conceptualize the tool, that's the tool we're going to use. Is this negative? And how can we shift? How can we challenge those thoughts, feelings, behaviors and shift so that we don't get stuck in the rut, basically? And so here's the 4 steps on how we can do this with this tool. Is this helpful? Step 1 is acknowledge it. Oh, I love this thing, is acknowledging anything in terms of our mental health is a way that we can start taming things. So we've got to name it to tame it, acknowledge it to tame it. So the question you ask yourself is, when you notice what's going on, maybe a thought, a feeling, or a behavior, just name it. Oh, I'm thinking this again. I'm thinking this negative thought again around money or around my partner or around my kids, around my work, around my social circles, around what happens in the news. I'm thinking about it. Or, oh, I'm feeling this feeling again. I'm feeling this anxiety. I'm anxious or I'm stressed. I'm feeling this thing in my belly. Oh no, I've got gastro. I'm feeling gastro. I've got gastro. Like, when we think about things or think about feelings, we can amplify them to be bigger than what they actually are. Or I'm doing this again. I'm looking at that door again. I'm checking the front door that it's locked. Or I'm doom scrolling again in social media, or I'm drinking again, or I'm taking drugs again, or I'm getting shitty at other people again. I'm thinking, feeling, doing. I'm behaving in these ways. I'm acknowledging it. I'm going to name it. I am doing these things, thinking these things. This is the first step. Step number 2, identify how we want to think, feel, and behave. So I'm doing this thing again. I'm thinking this negative thought about money, but I don't want to do that anymore. I want to think positively about money. Or I'm standing at the front door checking that it's locked again for the 10th time in a row. I don't want to do this. I want to check it once and go to bed. Or I'm feeling this anxiety again. So we can reframe that and go, I actually want to not feel anxiety. Or maybe I want to recognize that anxiety can actually be excitement. And those two can often get intertwined and cause us to come unstuck when we think of it as an anxious feeling as opposed to an exciting feeling. So we've identified what the situation is or the issue is, the negative thought, feeling, behavior. We've named it. We've identified an alternative we want to do. And now the key question, step 3, ask yourself out loud or in your head. I like to do it out loud because that externalizes the situation. Is this helpful? Is this thought helpful? Is this feeling helpful? Or is this behavior helpful? And in majority of cases, it's generally a no. This is not helpful. With the caveat that sometimes feelings, thoughts, or behaviors can be helpful to identify that something's going on, but it's not going to help us to live the life that we want to live. It's going to keep us down. We want to bring ourselves up. And so, in order to bring ourselves up, we've got to recognize that the thought, feeling, or behavior is not helpful. So, ask yourself that key question: is this helpful? Step 4, the final step in this 4-step process is tame it. So we've got to name it to tame it. So we've named it already. We've named an alternative that we want to feel. We've asked ourselves, is this helpful? And now we're taming it. So how can we tame it? Well, by naming it and identifying an alternative and then asking ourselves, is this helpful? We're switching on that rational brain. So we're switching off emotional brain. Some people call it the monkey brain. We're switching on the rational brain. And so we can start problem solving here. Is this helpful that I stress out about getting a bill in my inbox? No, it's not helpful, but paying the invoice is helpful because then it gets out of my inbox. I've done something about it. It's a very simple thing. Is it helpful for me to think of everything as negative? No, I actually want to think of things more positively. So I'm going to now think of 5 positive thoughts about this situation to help me overcome that negativity. Another way to do it. That's the rational brain problem solving. Another way is to ground ourselves. Can we be in the moment? Because often when we're thinking in a negative loop, for example, or we're behaving in a negative way, or we're feeling in a negative way, it's on cycle, and we're not really in the moment, not really in that present moment. We might be thinking about the past, which can lead to depression, shame, guilt, all those types of negative feelings. Or we're often thinking in the future, anxiety, stress, worry, what if, what's going to happen? And so grounding ourselves in the moment, and you can do this using your 5 senses. What can you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear around you to be in the here and now? So being in the here and now is really important to break out of the negative cycles that we're in. Start tuning into where we're at, who's around us, what we're seeing, what we're experiencing. You could tell yourself some positive affirmations. It's going to be okay. I've got this. This is not helpful. All these types of positive affirmations can lift us up and can start to break down the negative thoughts that are running through our heads. An alternative to positive affirmations is gratitude. What are you grateful for in this moment or about this tricky situation? So me getting a unexpected bill, what am I grateful for? Is, I'm actually engaged with a service that's helping me to achieve a goal. So for example, my bookkeeper, I'm grateful when I do get an invoice because my bookkeeper is helping me with my bookkeeping because I hate finances. I struggle with it. So I'm grateful for them supporting me to do that. No, I don't like having to pay for that. And that's the negative aspect of it. But it's really positive that they're engaged with me. They're helping me out, growing my business in a way that is also by the books from a tax perspective, which is really helpful as well. Another one is we can talk to someone. So I'm talking to my business wellness coach who's giving me this tool. Is this helpful? I'm talking to my wife. I'm talking to my supervisor. I'm talking to my therapist as well. Talking to people that can help me through this period that I'm going through that is giving me these negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And on that is maybe engaging in therapy or coaching. If you're not doing this already, engaging with a professional to help you see the rational and come out of that emotional brain that can help you to problem solve with this simple question: is this helpful?